everyone and welcome! Not only do we finally know the story of Zoe, but Mount Targon itself got an update too. And because it is better to set up the environment before jumping into bigger stories, let's have a look at Targon first. The new information we got was split into two parts. The story explaining Targon was updated, and we got a brand new video explaining the culture of Mount Targon. So let's have a look at the story first. Mount Targon is the mightiest peak in Runeterra, a towering mountain of sun-baked rock amid a range of summits unmatched in scale anywhere else in the world. Located far from civilization, Mount Targon is utterly remote and all but impossible to reach save for most determined seeker. Many legends cling to Mount Targon, ranging from tales of blazing warriors imbued with incredible powers falling from the sky to battle monsters, to fantastical tales of gods and their celestial abodes crashing down to form the mountain. Some legends even go so far as to claim the mountain itself is a sleeping titan of antiquity. Like any place of myth, Mount Targon is a beacon to dreamers, madmen and questers of adventure. Those who survive the arduous journey to the foot of the titanic mountain are welcomed as fellow pilgrims by the scattered tribal communities that have set up nomadic camps around its base. Here the weary travelers learn of the tribes, such as the Rakor, who endured the harsh climate and unforgiving lands around the mountain for millennia. These people are united in their belief that living in the shadow of these cyclopean structures of monumental scale is a true calling of mysterious powers. The origin and purpose of these structures, if such things ever had one, remain a mystery, for mortals can never truly know the minds of the structure's lost creators. Many faiths find root around the mountain, but all are beholden to the Solari, a sun-worshipping faith whose tenets dominate the land. The Solari High Temple sits on the eastern slope of the mountain, reachable only by crossing swinging rope bridges over abyssal canyons, climbing winding stairs weathered into the living rock, and traversing whisper-thin ledges cut upon sheer cliffs carved with ancient symbols and vast effigies. Some brave souls attempt to scale the impossible mountain, perhaps seeking wisdom or enlightenment, perhaps seeking glory or some soul-deep yearning to see its summit. The dwellers at the peak's base cheer as these brave souls begin their ascent, knowing the mountain will find the vast majority of them unworthy, and to be judged unworthy by Mount Targon is to die. The mountain's sheer flanks and the treacherous condition of its high slopes make it incredibly difficult to climb. The rocks are littered with the contorted bodies of those who had made the attempt and failed. The ascent is all but impossible, a grueling test of every facet of a climber's strength, character, resolve, willpower, and determination. Some climbers ascend for weeks or months, others for a single day, for the mountain is inconsistent and ever-changing. And even for those hardy few who somehow survive to reach the top, the testing is not over. Some who claw their way up to the summit do so only to find it utterly empty, an abandoned expanse of ruins and faded carvings beyond human understanding. For unknowable reasons, the mountain had found the climber's soul lacking. For a handful of others, however, the summit is said to be veiled in a cascade of shimmering light, through which wonders and far-distant vistas can be glimpsed the bewildering, tantalizing visions of a mystical domain beyond. Despite attaining their goal of reaching the summit, most fail this last test, turning away in fear from this inhuman realm. Of the rare few who press on, most never return, while others may reappear minutes, years, or even centuries later. Only one thing is certain: those who return are changed beyond all recognition. The sky around Mount Targon shimmers with celestial bodies, the sun and moons, but also constellations, planets, fiery comets that streak the darkness, and auspicious arrangements of stars. The people living at the mountain's base believe these to be aspects of long-vanished stellar beings, creatures powerful and ancient on a scale beyond human comprehension. Some believe the power of these aspects sometimes come down the mountain within the lambent bodies of those climbers found worthy. Such an occurrence is unimaginably rare, and amazing tales of their exploits form around these individuals, who only ever appear once every few generations. It is incredibly unusual for more than a single aspect to walk the earth of Runeterra at any given time, so the tales of several aspects manifesting has spread a pall of fear and uncertainty around the mountain. For what threat might be arising that requires the power of so many powerful beings to fight? That was the fleshed out base information. And those of you who remember our previous Targon theory may now realize that we predicted what is about to get confirmed. That Targon is actually a gateway to the real Targon beyond. But before we look into that, let's have a look at Targon's death diary. Last time we got our dose of Targon lore, we mostly learned about the basics. Thankfully, this video reveals a lot of details that greatly expand and explain important parts of the story. Right at the beginning, we learn how Mount Targon came to be.
As you might know, Mount Targon is located far away from any major civilization. The mountain itself is formed not just by geological processes or tectonic plates pushing against each other, it's actually formed by magical forces pulling the mountain upwards from the top.
This is a huge game changer. We now know that Mount Targon was pulled up and ripped from Runeterra with magical forces. It was artificially created by someone or something. Then we learn a little bit more about the ascension to the peak of the mountain.
So all across Runeterra, people have heard of this legendary mountain and the brave souls who have managed to climb it. So throughout Runeterra's history, there have always been those who have felt the calling to make the pilgrimage to Mount Targon.
Because Mount Targon is such a mythical place, so many people are drawn to this region. They see the divine celestial patterns in the rock, and many people believe that the shapes in the rock could not have been formed by any group. They were formed by divine beings.
When we were developing Targon, we wanted to make sure that the geography of the region was well represented and balanced between harshness and livability. So visually, when we first look at Targon, our instinct might be to say this is a faction all about wind and rocks and snow. In actuality, the lower slopes actually contain a lot of greenery that can support an ecosystem of animals and people, especially in the summer when the meltwater from ice at the higher elevations trickles downward and forms these lush green oases. So it might not be the most comfortable of lifestyles, but it's definitely somewhere you can survive in.
This explanation goes far deeper than you might think. It will be mentioned in this video one more time, and I will remind you when they are talking about it. But all of this is based around the idea that Targon was pulled up from Runeterra. Imagine someone pinching the surface of the earth and pulling up. All the lands would follow the movement, rise, and cling to the mountain. That's why there is a lot of greenery higher up the mountain. It's because it was pulled there. Then we learn about the Rakor, ancient people that listen to the divine calling of Mount Targon. They live around the base of the mountain, and they are the people foreign travelers assimilate into. Their vast knowledge of survival becomes essential to the climb.
So nearly everybody on the base of the mountain is somebody who believes in the sun as this deity. They're part of this religion known as the Solari. The Solari believe that the sun is the source of all life and that all other light sources are false. There's also an elite warrior arm within the Solari known as the Raharak, and Leona is their commander. So there's another religion on Mount Targon as well known as the Lunari. This is a much smaller group because they've been persecuted for generations by the Solari, and they actually have to hide in enclaves around the mountain. So one example of a Lunari person is Diana, who was actually raised Solari, but encountered these hidden forbidden texts that talked about these moon worshippers. So she was condemned as a heretic by the Solari, and she's now trying to bring the Lunari back to power.
This was just the overview of who Leona and Diana really are. Leona is the commander of the Raharak, elite sun warriors, and Diana is a former Solari who found ancient texts that reveal the secrets of the Lunari. In this next part, not only do we get our theory confirmed, but something interesting gets mentioned.
So at the top of Mount Targon is a portal to another realm where there are these divine beings known as aspects. These aspects are celestial beings that sometimes will imbue mortals with divine power if they deem them worthy. And these aspects are embodiments of different concepts. So for example, Pantheon is the aspect of war, Diana is the aspect of the moon, Leona is the aspect of the sun. And they gain power from these celestial entities as well.
Just for the sake of order, Tariq is the aspect of the protector. But what made me stop here is the naming. I am getting really confused about the fact that these aspects are the celestial gods in the realm beyond Targon, but aspects are also these infused mortals we have on Runeterra. I would still prefer calling Pantheon, Leona and Diana avatars, and leave the title of an aspect to the actual celestials. But maybe this is how the aspects multiply. We know that Pantheon has a network of avatars, so maybe these aspects just create more aspects by infusing mortals with their powers. As a side note, this would be an effective counter strategy against the Void, since the Void also multiplies by consuming its surroundings.
So, because being chosen by an aspect is such a dramatic and life-shattering event, many of the Rekoran elders actually encourage members of the tribe to try and make the climb up the mountain. It's an extremely rare occurrence for anyone to make it to the top of the mountain, much less be chosen by an aspect. So, something like this would occur perhaps about once in a century. Most climbs start with a leaving ceremony when a climber crosses an ancient and sacred threshold and says goodbye to everyone and everything he's ever known.
Honestly, this is a nice world building. In case you didn't understand what these circles are, they are gateways that mark the end of a safe base, and once you pass them, you're on your way up the mountain.
So once we leave the safety of the lower slopes, the climber is going to face a lot of physical hazards like deadly ice and deep crevasses, and they're going to face rapidly intensifying weather. Well, some of the unique things that we might come across as a climber would be a frozen lake, perhaps, that has been pulled up vertically by the force of the mountain moving upwards over the centuries.
This is what I was talking about at the beginning. As the magic pulls up the mountain, it takes everything with it. So not only is the greenery up there, but even lakes got frozen on the side of the mountain.
So as the climber moves upward, the terrain is going to become vastly more vertical, and this is when the influence of magic becomes more prevalent. The landforms are going to become more twisted and alien-like, and the climber might start hallucinating with unresolved fears, desires, or memories coming back as visions to haunt them. And this is the aspect's way of using the mountain to test the climber's worthiness before they reach the top.
So you can see this play out in Tarek's comic on Universe, where he ascends the mountain and he encounters each of these different zones on his ascent. He also encounters both physical and spiritual tests, as he has these hallucinations that he has to fight against. Every aspect of the climb is so dangerous that many people die on the mountain and their bodies are left there. Because of the magical gravitational pull of the rock, the bodies are actually subsumed into the rock formation, becoming these weird, grotesque shapes that serve as warnings to future climbers. Most people who ascend the peak and are successful enough to survive that journey actually see nothing at the top. They just see empty rock. But in the very rare event that a celestial actually does choose that person and deem them worthy to imbue with their power, the mountain opens up at the top, and there's this spectacular light show that everybody on Mount Targon can see it from the bottom. Because this event is so rare, the fact that Pantheon, Leona, Diana, and Tarek have all become aspects is a sign that the Targonians perceive a great threat to Runeterra.
So, what do we have here? It seems like something big is coming. This was hinted by many stories before, but now that we have the aspect of Twilight present as well, a big change is coming. Zoe's ascension is a little bit different, and I'll ignore it for now so I don't spoil the story. So that's the base info we have about Targon. We now know how the mountain was created, how people climb up, what they go through, and even what's up there. If we now look back at the previous stories, a lot of the mystery suddenly makes sense. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to rate it and subscribe if you don't want to miss Zoe's story. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Discord if you'd like to chat. Our merch, P.O.Box, Patreons, all the important stuff, everything should be down in the description. And with that, thank you all so much for watching and for your support, you know I really appreciate it. And as always, thank you, come again.